All right, so we are now recording. To get started, I did want to show you a preview of our support materials. If you do not already have access and credentials to this, please reach out to your admin team or submit a help ticket and we would be able to provide you with those. But within here is where we post a lot of our resources, training reminders, and anything outside of the course. At the very top, you'll notice there's a folder titled 2526 webinars. This is where we're going in and uploading our latest webinars. We do have a teacher basic that will get added here by today or by the end of the week as well. And then the advanced will also follow. We do also have a full teacher resources folder right within here. We've built a welcome package. And this mainly has all of the main basics when you're brand new to Bright Thinker. But for today's advanced, we do have quite a bit of other teacher support materials. And we have things within the gradebook that are a little bit more advanced, as well as the editor. So feel free to look through those as well after our webinar today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started by sharing the credentials. That way, if you'd like to follow along, you can. And I'll go ahead and post this in the chat as well. That way you can just click into the training site. Everyone will be logged in as the same user. So once you click on that URL from the chat, it should bring you to the training site.thebrightthinker.com. And then your username is W followed by teacher, and password is all lowercase teach. And if you could give me a thumbs up emoji, just letting me know that you've made it in. Thank you. Perfect. So your screen should look like mine. In the top left corner should say Teacher App, and then you are enrolled in a few courses. Now we are going to be focusing on the teacher webinar onboarding course for today. And the first thing that we want to click into is the gradebook. So if you'll hover over the bar icon underneath the teacher webinar course card, that'll automatically bring you to the gradebook of that course. Now, right within here, there's a few things that we've adjusted. You may see some columns that are new or you haven't seen on your end before. In the top right corner, you'll notice there's a small gear icon. That'll be your display options and how you can customize your gradebook. So if you'll click on the gear icon with me, this will show you the columns that are currently toggled on. So you can see the students' usernames, the last time they've logged in, accommodations if they have any, a few different ways to view their grade, whether minutes spent, letter grade, or score. We have the pace checked on. We can also check on a couple of other progress bars. But this gives you the ability to fully customize and add or take away any columns or footers that you'd like to remove or add in. Towards the very bottom, under View Options, there are a couple of key features that we like to highlight. One of them is Show Non-Gradable Activities. By default, the gradebook only shows the activities that receive a grade. If we turn this on, I'll show you exactly what it'll look like for you as a teacher, and that'll help you get a better understanding of all of the activities the student is to complete throughout the year. We also have an option to show inactive enrollments. This one is particularly popular if a student withdraws, they're inactive, or let's say you're reviewing a past course. You'll probably want to go in here, show inactive enrollments to make sure that you see that past data. Over on the right-hand side, right beneath Tools, this is an area where you can export the same settings to other courses you may be enrolled in. So let's say you customize your settings and you want other courses to have the same gradebook. Once you click Export under Tools, then it'll allow you to select which courses you want those same settings to go to. So that'll save you quite a bit of time. But now that I've checked on a few additional columns and options, I'm going to save in that top right corner. And then you may need refresh with me to see the changes. So from here, you'll have the student's name on the left. We have username, last login, score, letter grade, minutes spent. And then scrolling over to the side, I've also added in the gradable completion percentage and overall. This is regarding the progress, a pace indicator as well to let you know if the student's on schedule, falling behind, or in danger of getting behind. But scrolling past that, this is where we can see the gradable activities. I believe since we're all in here together, I think someone unchecked non-gradable activities. Let me go ahead and resave that. You may have to refresh one more time for me. And then you'll be able to see non-gradable activities appear in your gradebook as well. So an example of this is the student orientation. You'll see that the first example student at the very top of the gradebook has check marks. This lets you know that they've successfully marked the activity as complete. And you can always click on the checkbox or in the blank box to see if they have or not. And in this example, it actually gives you the opportunity to mark that activity complete for them. You can either direct them to do it themselves, or you can do it on your teacher's side. And so this gives you an understanding if they've reviewed their required materials, the readers that they may need for their activity, coloring pages, any other activities they may see that don't receive a grade. And that will also track into their progress. So if at the end of the school year, there's 2 different progress bars, if they don't reach 100% for all activities, you know that it's probably because some of these non-gradable activities haven't been completed by the student. And again, to see those non-gradable activities, you'll visit the gear icon and then check on View Non-Gradable Activities. Otherwise, we can scroll further and then see some auto-graded and scored activities here. Now, in our basic webinar, we walk through how to grade activities for students, excuse, allow retry, any of those functions. For today, I'll have you click on the title of a Algebra 1 Lesson 1. It should be a blue hyperlink title. Once you click on that, that'll bring you to the activity grader. And this will show you all current students that have submitted. This is also customizable, so you can click on the gear icon and take away or add in a few more details. But from right here in the top left corner, it should say Activity Grader. Right next to that, it'll say Analytics. Clicking on there will allow you to see a few different pieces of data. If you scroll down, you'll see some statistics like passing score, mean, average, as to how everyone's doing regarding this specific activity. But then scrolling down towards the bottom, since this is a question-based activity, there are some questions you can expand and determine to remove if you'd like. This will remove the question from the score and provide a curve for all students that have completed. It'll also remove it from the score for any future students that are to submit. And it'll also give you a percentage of which students selected which answer choice. So for example, if I am to remove this second question here, you'll always have the ability to click back into it and re-include the question. But for this specific feature on curving by removing questions, you will want to make sure that at least one student has submitted in order for you to have the ability to do this. And it only works with question-based activities since you are removing questions to curve the score. Does anyone have any questions at this time? All right. So I'll have you click on the Activity Grader tab over to the left. That'll bring us back to the main screen. Now in the top right corner, next to the lightning bolt, there is a wrench icon. If we click on that wrench, that'll be your tools. The first option that you have is to return all scores. So in this case, the students already received their grade. But let's say you saved a score as a draft. Let's say they completed an upload-based activity, and you'd like to go ahead and post anything that you have in your drafts. That'll automatically send the scores to the students. Right beneath that, you have the option to stop accepting submissions. Now, this is only available if you're enrolled in a range course. If you're in a continuous course, then the targeted due dates have already been placed by the system, and they always have the ability to submit past the end date or the targeted due date. Beneath that option, you also have another option to curve scores. If we click here, then that'll allow you to change the max score. Right now it looks to be 80%, but typically you will automatically have it be 100%. Then if you'd like to curve everybody's score, you can reduce that down. Let's say I want everyone's max score to be 90. I can curve and it'll automatically adjust depending on what they got correct and incorrect. So you have two different ways of curving the score, either by clicking on analytics and removing those questions, or within the activity grader is the wrench icon to curve scores and change the max score. Right beneath, we have batch update scores. Now, before I click on that, you do have the option to batch update scores for select students. So let's say I only wanted to affect my example student and my bright thinker student. If I select the boxes to the left of their name, and then I go to the wrench to batch update scores, that'll give me a few different options. So you can autofill the scores for those entries you've selected. You can also do it for the unscored, unsubmitted, submitted and unscored, or all of them. Or you can leave it on those selected students and then automatically adjust their score in bulk this way per activity. It does give you a few other options. So you can return the scores to students. You can uncheck that and that won't automatically send it over to them or go into the gradebook until you post those. And it also gives you the option to allow a retry for those selected students. So those features are very similar. So whether you're to autofill scores, if you'd like to mark as missing for those selected students, it does give you an option to also assign a score depending on what you need. Excuse is the same as well, and allow a retry. So all of these here are only affecting the one activity for all of the students or the selected students. There is another way to bulk mark as missing, allow, retry, or excuse per student as well. And I'll show you that next. Now, before I leave the activity grader, back down into the wrench icon, the last option is enter printed assessment answers. Now, this is helpful if you have a student, let's say they printed their lesson offline, they complete it, and then they turn it back into you. You can enter their answers into the system for it to automatically grade for you. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and have you watch my screen. So you won't be following along for this piece. We do have a PDF on how you can review it later on. However, I am going to go into my activities of this onboarding course. And I'm going to open up my example unit just to this first lesson I have in here. So in order to print an attempt for a student, it automatically will bring you to the preview of the lesson. You may have to click the back arrow just once until you see this screen here. So whenever you see print, you can click on that and it'll give you an option to select the students you'd like to print the attempt for. Let's say it's just my bright thinker student that needs to complete offline. Once I select them and then click print, we'll go ahead and print. And you don't necessarily need to print it out. You can also save it as a PDF and have them complete that way. That way it takes the attempt. And you probably weren't able to see my computer settings, but I did save as a PDF to take that attempt. Now from here, there's a couple of ways that you can get back to that screen. In the top right corner of this view, there is a pencil icon right next to the paper. Right next to that icon is one that if you hover over, it says grade activity. That's a quick shortcut to where we were in the activity grader, and that'll allow you to go back into your wrench and enter those printed assessment answers. Now that I've done that, my students that I have printed an attempt for will be listed on the left. In this case, it was Bright Thinker. And then from here, you'll be able to manually enter in what they've provided to you on paper. And hopefully this one is not too long. And let's just say they didn't completely fill out the last two questions. Once you provide what they've submitted to you, in the bottom right corner, you can click Submit, and it'll automatically grade for you. You'll also be able to see any questions that you've previously excluded from the score and see how the system auto-graded for you. The benefit of this is that the data is in the system. It's completely optional, and this is helpful if you'd like the student submission to be saved in the platform. And I did see a question. Let me review that. So we had, if the students print themselves and send it that way, can we still enter the answers, or only if we print it? Good question. So that print view that we saw earlier when you're in the activities, the students won't have the ability to print an attempt for themselves. It'll need to be done by the teacher. And then once that's done, then you can go in and print the assessment answers. This print icon is specific for teachers. Now, if printing is turned on for your school, you also have a print icon in the top right corner within the lesson. That one is not taking an attempt, it's just taking a printed version of the lesson itself. But I'm going to go back into that grade book. For that example student, I can click on their name over to the far left, and that'll bring me to that student's specific scores. So scrolling down, I can click into and review exactly how the system auto-graded. We do cover these steps in detail in the basic webinar on how to grade specific activities if you need to. However, from this view in the top right corner, there is the option to turn on the lightning bolt. That's enable quick edit grading. That will allow you to override any current scores, or if a student completes offline and you'd like to go ahead and enter in the score that way. Anytime you use that lightning bolt, you want to make sure to turn it off so you don't affect any other scores. But right next to that feature, we also have a paper icon for batch update grading. This one, once you enable that, it will give you checkboxes over on the right-hand side. This is how you can bulk allow a retry, excuse, or mark as missing for anything you select. So let's say these 4 activities here. Now in the top left corner, you'll have a few different options to do in bulk for this one student. Aside from that batch update grading, within this view, you can also review the What If tab. The students also have this view on their end, but the What If is helpful for them to project future scores. So let's say they're working through their next lesson. They'd like to see what would happen if they received 100%. If they type that in, it won't affect their score in any way. This is just hypotheticals, but they can recalculate and see how their projected score would change. And I believe the scores are a little skewed here since we did curve and make some changes. But you as a teacher or the student can recalculate and see how that would work. Over to the right of what if, we have activity. So this is just a quick glance to see how long the student is working and where they're spending their time. So it's really great at tracking not only if they're logged in, but exactly where they're spending their time in that specific course. There is also a report that pulls this information, and I'll make sure to show you where you can find that in the support materials. Next to that, we have Objective Mastery. This tab will allow you to review how this student is mastering their standards. You'll see the standard, then the mastery bar. That bar will begin to shade in as they complete and master objectives. And then you also get a description of what that objective is, or standard. You can click on it, the description itself, and it'll show you which activities align with that standard. And they are hyperlinks, so if you click on any of those, they will automatically redirect you there. Next of Objective Mastery, we have Activity Stream. This is the same as the Student's Notification Center, and they can see it on their end as well, right from when they log in. But this gives you access to view any type of changes, their activities. Notifications they receive within here can be announcements that have been posted. If you allow a retry, score has been updated, anything like that. And then to the right of that, we have the to-do list. In this case, the student doesn't have any current activities due, but by default, you will see the next 7 calendar days. Anything past due at the top as well. Want to check in and see if anyone has any questions. If you could use your emoji to react to see how you feel. Thank you. Perfect. So the last thing within the gradebook, I did also want to show you there is another mastery tab. So within the main gradebook itself, in the very top left corner, next to grades, you have mastery. Now this view allows you to see the standards along with the description, but now you can see the number of students that have mastered, not mastered, or have yet to attempt. And you can hover over those bars to see the number of students. In this case, we're just in a demo site, so not many students have mastered many objectives. Clicking on the standard description from here will allow you to view exactly which students have attempted, if any, and the mastery date. That is everything within the gradebook as far as our advanced webinar. I'll have you go into your main menu and we're going to go down to the editor, which is the pencil underneath that course. So in our basics training, just as a recap, this is where we show how you can hide activities using the eyeball icon. That does automatically remove it from pacing the gradebook, and the student is no longer required to complete it. They won't see it on their end at all. We do like the precaution, you won't want to hide anything. So for example, if you were to hide lesson 2, our curriculum works in sequential order, so the student will still be quizzed on concepts that were covered in previous lessons. But we do know that the activities, labs, and projects, those can be hidden and the work or questions won't pull up in future tests or quizzes. But for the lessons, we do like to give that precaution. Aside from the hiding ability, you do have the option to click on the pencil. Let's say we want to review any answer keys. This is a great way to view answer keys by clicking on Edit next to a test, for example. And then from here, you do have the Questions tab where you can review those answer keys. The last icon over to the right next to each line item is the 3 dots. This allows you to preview the activity right from here as a teacher. There's also ways to move and customize the location, but we always suggest to never delete anything on the platform since the student data is deleted as well. You can't always retrieve it, so best practice is to hide if you need to remove anything. Now, just as another recap as well, within the editor, this is where you can schedule your due dates. As long as you are in a range course, you'll have the ability to assign your own due dates just by dragging and dropping those activities on the left-hand side to their appropriate due date. If you are in range, the students won't see any to-do list or calendar activities if you did not place any activities due dates. If you are in a continuous course, then you won't have to schedule any due dates. The system will automatically do it for you. All right, so I'm going to click back on the syllabus tab and walk through a few advanced features. The first is going to be how to create your own custom activities and supplement in from other grade levels. So at the very bottom of the onboarding course editor, there is a button to add an activity. This did recently get a little bit of a different feel and how do I say it? A facelift to how to add in the activities. So previously, the activities were in a different look here. It gives you quite a bit of options. Best practice when adding activities is to click on built-in the top left corner. This will make sure that you have access to all of those activity types. The LMS does have a newer feature called Busy Bee that is not automatically included in your subscription, so I always recommend clicking built-in to make sure you have the ability to use all of them. You can go in here and star any type of activities that you like to use quite frequently. Let me just do a few of these, and then we can look at them all together. There's quite a bit of options that you have to choose from. But from here, for example, you can add in YouTube videos, create them as activities. You can make them gradable if you'd like or not. If you'd like to create practice questions, it's a good way for students to practice their vocabulary or any specific quiz. The library is really helpful if you'd like to supplement in from current Bright Thinker courses. So outside of creating your own custom activities, the library will give you access to view all K through 12, any courses that you have in your subscription. Scrolling up, you do also have the option to tie an activity from your Google Drive. So if you've created a presentation in Google, you can add it in as an activity for students to view from here. Flashcards are really popular as well. The main two that I like to highlight is assessment and assignment. Assessment is typically used for question-based activities. So if you'd like to create your own custom activity, have the students go through multiple choice questions, you have full ability to customize and create your own for it to be auto-graded. Now you also have the ability to add in essay questions or fill in the blank, a few other questions types. That is what I would recommend for auto-graded versus assignment. That one is typically used more for upload-based activities, where the student can have a text box to type an answer, upload their work, either Google Drive file, however, and then the teacher will be able to grade it on their end. I'm going to filter by just the ones that I start. That way we can see them a little bit more clearly here. Before I show you how to create a brand new one, if you'll click the X in the top left corner, that'll bring you to the main course editor. At the very bottom, we have a folder of examples for custom activities. I'll have you open that up and we can review a few examples we already have ready. So within here, we have the first one is the assignment activity. You can click on the three dots to preview that from here. So again, with the assignment, that's the one that allows you to add in a text box for a student to type in their comments. You can also allow them to attach a few different types of files, whether it be audio, video, Google, or just regular files from their device. In this specific example, we have some instructions at the very top. Then the student can go down here to download their attachment and re-upload for a grade. Now the next example activity, we have an assessment. So this one automatically clicked and brought me into the assessment itself. So you'll see there is an ordering question, fill in the blank, a multi-answer. We have an essay, multiple choice, and drag and drop or matching. So it's just an example of what you can do in creating your own custom assessment. I'm going to click back a couple of times and that'll bring me to my main site, my main editor view. From here, we have a couple of other examples. One of them is the flashcards. I'm going to go ahead and show you that one as well. So again, we have some instructions that you can edit, and then the students can click on the flashcards. It's a good way for them to test out their vocabulary or any other facts. Another example that we have is a YouTube video. Previewing this one from here keeps the students within the platform. As long as they don't have YouTube Blog, they'll be able to play any URL website link that you provide from here. Please just keep in mind that it is a YouTube link, so it will also redirect them to view other videos within there. But YouTube is an option. Outside of that, we also have another assessment example of a quiz here. So in this case, the assessment did not automatically begin for me. You have the option to automatically have the student start, or they can click start whenever they're ready. In this case, we only have a couple of multiple choice questions. Now, in order for you to create those, you can click that plus button. The first one that I want to cover is the library. So if you'll navigate down, find the library, and then you'll click Browse. That'll automatically give you a few different options to choose from. In our demo site, you'll want to click the California State Master Courses, but when you are in your site, you'll have your own Right Thinker Master Courses that align to your school. And this may take a couple of seconds since it is loading quite a bit of courses, but you will have all K through 12 as long as you have a full course subscription, and this allows you to pull from any of these courses. One thing I'd like to note is most of your courses should not say expires, but if they do, please make sure to not use any that have expires on it. That means it's an inactive course. For this example, I'm just going to click on this new edition of third grade science. That'll allow me to either open up or add in a whole unit. If we click into this unit, you can preview specific lessons just to make sure that's what you want to bring in. It looks like this one's having an issue. Let me try to do another lab. Oh, this one's an upload-based activity. I may have to reach out to the LMS to make sure this isn't a bug, but typically you will be able to review the activity before you're able to bring it in, and then you can just add it to your cart. It doesn't cost any money. That's just how they label it in here. Let's say I want to bring these 3 lessons in. Then in the top right corner, I'll click View Cart. And this is the most important part. You'll always want to make sure to click Link instead of Copy. link makes sure that any academic setting changes or updates done will flow down to your copy. And you can confirm that you've linked it properly by seeing that little paperclip. The main updates are going to be academic setting changes that your admin has done, or if the curriculum team makes a quick adjustment to, let's say, an incorrect answer, anything like that, a typo. But now that you've added it in, it'll automatically come down to the bottom of your course. You can drag and drop wherever you need the students to take that. You can add it inside of a unit. And then it does allow you to also retitle. So let's say this lesson that I've just added in, if I want to retitle it, make it match the unit a little bit better, I can click on the pencil icon. And from here, you can add in, let's say, lesson 3.5. You can go over to the settings, review the settings for that specific activity you've just brought in. For example, if you'd like to allow more attempts, there's quite a bit of customization you can do here. You can give time limits, allow printing, assign passwords. But outside of the settings, you can click to review the questions, or you can just click preview in the top right corner. Does anyone have any questions on how to add activities from current existing Bright Thinker courses? Okay. So now I'll use the plus button once again at the very bottom, and I'll walk through the assessment and assignment steps. So assessment, again, is question-based activity. And the LMS does a really great job of adding in a small description to help you remind the difference between both. But if we'll click add underneath assessment, then from right here, it'll be custom created, so you can title it however you'd like. Let's say we're creating a quiz. Underneath content, you can add any type of video, image, anything that you'd like the students to see before they click start to get to their questions. Otherwise, you also have a space to add in activity instructions. So in this case, I'm having the students complete the quiz after watching the video. Underneath the content, I can insert any type of video. In this case, I'll just do a YouTube. And give me just a second to get a YouTube link, and then we can put one in here together. I just pulled one of our internal made YouTube videos. It gives you the option to align it. You can also add more instructions to the top of this. It's fully customizable. And then you can also add additional attachments, whether it be right from your device or from your Google Drive. And I'll just do one as a test. If you are working in a math course, the system also gives you the ability to give a calculator to the students as they're working, a ruler, a protractor, a few different things here. Companion material is very similar to attachments. However, companion material stays along with the student as they're working through their questions. So I'll add in a different one here so we can look at that. Now, before I click save, we just edited the activity. If you click on the settings tab in the top left, this is where you can assign number of attempts and specific settings to the activity. If you want this to become a grade for the students, you will want to make sure the activity is checked on as gradable. You can assign the weight, which grading category it belongs in. If you're in a range course, this is also where you can assign the due date for that specific assessment. But scrolling down, it gives you the ability to assign time limit, give them the ability to print, use a highlighter, take notes. You can require an assessment password. That will require the student to provide the password every single time they try a new attempt. You will also want to make sure to assign that passing score, especially if it's gradable. And then sometimes it may be easier to pull up an existing course activity settings to reflect and mirror exactly what you want in there. Another key setting that I like to point out is student must complete this activity before continuing to the next one. So if you do require the students to work in sequential order and you don't want them to skip over this quiz or assessment, you'll want to check that box on, and that'll ensure that they can't just skip right over it. They'll need to complete that before moving forward. You have a few different options as far as what complete means. So you can have it mark as complete when the student submits, receives any score, or passing score. Keeping in mind, if you receive a passing score and it's not completely auto-graded, then it will require a score or a grade from you as a teacher before the student is able to move forward. In this case, I'll just select submits. And then lastly is the questions tab. So this is where you'll use the plus button to add in any type of question you'd like. For example, we'll do multiple choice first. So right next to multiple choice, there's going to be that number. That's where you are going to type out your question. Then you'll see an option to add choices. So let's say I'd like to give the students 4 choices. Whatever one you select, that is going to be the correct choice. And there's quite a bit of customization here. You can add in your own feedback. So students receive feedback every single time, only when they select the correct answer or the incorrect answer. So in this case, I'll do when it's correct. You can add feedback right beneath there. Let's say when the student answers incorrectly. Scrolling beneath there gives you additional options to offer partial credit. This one is typically used a little bit more if you have a multi-answer. In this case, it's just multiple choice, but I'm going to go ahead and create a different question. Let's do an essay. So with the essay, very similar, you'll want to write out your essay question. And it gives you an option to add in your own example answer. So this will help you when you're grading, since essay is going to be upload based, where the student does need to wait on the teacher to receive a grade. You can type in an example answer here. And then when you are grading, you'll be able to refer back to that. Each question, you do have the option to assign different points value. So if you'd like the essay to be weighted a little bit higher than the multiple choice, you can definitely do that. There is matching. I'm trying to think of an example here. I can't really think of a good matching question, so let me skip that one. I'm gonna go ahead and add in linking from an existing question. So this is a good way if you'd like to just copy an existing question from another part of the activity or the course. This will let you pull in already created questions. So let's say from Unit 4, Lesson 1, I can pull in all of the questions from Lesson 1, or I can open it further and just click on specific questions from here. And it does also let you preview the question ahead of time, just to make sure that's what you want to bring in. And then once you click OK, it'll automatically create those questions for you. And then you can also assign their own points value here. So now I've created a few questions. I'm going to go ahead and save so we can look at it together. At the very bottom, I titled mine quiz. You can click on the three dots to preview right from there. And so now we can see where the instructions pull up for the student, the YouTube video that I'm having them watch before they click start. And then we can go ahead, click start, and then you'll be able to see the questions. And these questions are actually shuffled, but within the settings, you can choose if you'd like to randomize the questions each attempt. You can keep them in the same order. Now in the top right corner, I did choose to give the option for the students to highlight as they're going through. The stacked paper icon is the companion material. So this is the attachment that will stay with the student when they're answering the questions. In this case, we just have a syllabus here as an example. Whereas if we go to the main quiz screen where we first started, there's an additional different attachment underneath there. That one is going to be different from your companion material. And this one, if clicked on, it'll automatically download to your computer. Companion material is usually helpful if, let's say for chemistry or math, you have them looking at a periodic table contents, then they can review that as they're answering their questions just to refer back to it. If you'd like to give them formulas or anything to use as they're being tested. So we walked through quiz. Now I'm going to use the plus button to add an assessment or an assignment type of activity. So the assignment is the one that is to be graded by the teacher. I'm going to title mine file upload. And then I'll add in some instructions here. So this is where you will need to direct the students to download the attachment and provide their work by uploading or by typing in the text box. Of course, you'll want to make sure to add an attachment so the students have that when they're working through. And then from here, you won't have a questions tab since it's a fill in the blank upload based, but going over to settings, this is where I highly recommend for the assignment type of activities to allow comments underneath the gradable and submission box. This makes sure that the student has a text box to be able to type and submit their work. You'll also want to review the allowed submission types. So for example, if I want them to be able to upload files, Google documents, images, audio, video, this is fully customizable for you to add in. And then I also highly recommend that you check on allow multiple attachments. That just allows the student to be able to upload a few different files if they didn't fully complete on one paper. It does give you an option to limit files, so if you don't want to accept PDFs or documents, anything like that, you can enter in the file extensions, but that's not really too popular. And then, of course, the gradebook settings, so which grading category this upload belongs in. Passing score, you'll want to make sure to assign, and then the same with the completion setting and the requirement to not skip over it. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save now that I've customized this file upload assignment, and we'll preview it together. So now when looking at the instructions, you can click on the attachment, it'll download to your computer, but then that's how the students will be able to see what is provided to them. They can either download, print it off, work offline, and then re-upload it for your grade. But the students will also have a text box to type in their answers if needed. So those are a couple of the examples when creating an activity. Are there any questions at this time? All right. Let me go through my agenda here and see what else we are covering today. So we do have about 5 more minutes. I'd like to walk you through the activity list. So in the editor at the very top, there is something called the activity list. This is where you can go in and affect multiple activities at once if you're wanting to make setting changes in bulk. So from here, if you're only wanting to affect gradable activities, I suggest you check that on. Otherwise, you may be affecting other things that won't be compatible with the settings you're looking for. So for example, let's say these 2 lessons here. Let me actually select a couple others. If I want to apply a few different settings to these activities in bulk, once I select them, in the top right corner, there is a pencil where it allows you to bulk edit both of those. And this gives you the option to change the visibility. So this is hiding it. It's just another way to hide those activities in bulk for just the teachers. You can remove the due date if it is a range course, allow late submissions. With allow late submissions, it does give you a different grace period. You can change whether the activity is gradable or not. So if you're finding you're customizing and creating your own activities, you can make them gradable all at once with this bulk feature. In this case, those already are, but you'll be able to see different options here. You can change the passing score, the weight, the grading category those belong in, assign a password. With the password, I typically don't recommend doing that in bulk because if it is the same password, then the students may catch on. So you will probably want to individualize those passwords. Number of attempts is also another option. And then you always want to confirm at the very bottom those changes that you're making and then click update. From the activity list, you also have the option to filter by type of activity. So assessment, again, is this question-based. Assignment is going to be upload-based, and they'll have different setting options depending on what you're selecting. Oh, I believe this one's new, but now it allows you to bulk update those assignments and allow comments in bulk. So that's a really great one I didn't know about. So best practice when using the activity list is checking on the gradable box. And then I typically recommend checking on and applying different settings by activity type, because sometimes if you are to, let's say, do assessment and then an assignment, when you go into bulk edit, a lot of them won't have the ability to adjust because they aren't the same type of activity. So for example, the submission settings, that only works with this, the assignments. And it looks like it also has to be gradable. So it'll give you a description as to what's going on and why it's not available for you. But we did cover quite a bit of features today in the advanced webinar. Again, if you don't already have access to your support materials, we will be putting a survey at the end of our webinar here in a couple of minutes to make sure that you can complete a survey, and then we can give you a certificate of completion for today's webinar. And then we will also send your credentials for the support materials if you need them as well. But I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Again, this was recorded, so if you need to reflect back to it, it will be held at the top of our support materials under the webinars folder. And Megan did go in and add